You have the money, you know you should do something with it, and yet the account never gets opened. Not because you forgot. You think about it, you just don't do it. That gap between knowing and acting is not a knowledge problem, and it might not be a laziness problem either. The standard explanation for financial inaction goes something like this. People don't invest because they don't understand investing. The concepts feel foreign, the terminology is intimidating, the platforms are confusing, and so the solution, according to most financial educators, most app designers, most bank marketing teams, is simplification. Make it easier, make it clearer, lower the barrier to entry, and there is something to that. Interface friction is real. Jargon is a genuine obstacle. If opening an account requires 45 minutes and a notarized document, fewer people will open accounts. That part is obvious, but here's the problem with that explanation. It doesn't account for the people who have already researched the platforms, who know which index fund they would choose, who have read the comparisons, watched the tutorials, maybe even started the application, and still haven't finished it. The barrier was low, the knowledge was there, the money was sitting in a checking account, earning almost nothing, and still nothing. When the mainstream explanation predicts one thing and reality delivers another, that is usually a sign that we are measuring the wrong thing or explaining the wrong mechanism. The behavior, not opening the account, looks identical whether the cause is confusion, fear, or something else entirely. And that is where the standard story starts to break down. Here is what the research actually reveals, and it requires a small shift in how we think about decision-making under uncertainty. Most models of financial avoidance treat the brain as a rational processor that is missing information. Give it the right data, reduce friction, and behavior changes. That framing assumes the bottleneck is cognitive, but there is a separate line of neuroscience research, specifically work on how the brain assigns value to uncertain outcomes, that points somewhere different. The brain does not just calculate expected value, it also calculates anticipated regret. And those two things are processed through partially different systems. Anticipated regret is not the same as loss aversion, though they are related. Loss aversion is about how much more a loss hurts than an equivalent gain feels good. Anticipated regret is something more specific. It is the mental simulation of how bad you will feel if you made the wrong choice. And crucially, research suggests that this simulation happens before the decision, not after. So when someone sits in front of an account opening form, what their brain may actually be doing is running a simulation. What if I invest this money and it drops? What if I pick the wrong fund? What if I do this wrong in some way I don't fully understand yet? The simulation generates a feeling, something between discomfort and low-grade dread. And the way to make that feeling stop is to not decide. Closing the tab does not feel like failure. It feels like relief. This is the part that the simplicity argument misses entirely. You can make the interface perfectly clean, the language perfectly plain, and still not address the anticipatory signal the brain is generating, because the obstacle is not the form. The obstacle is the feeling the form is attached to. This is where a specific line of neuroscience research becomes relevant, though carefully. Work published in 2015 in Current Biology examined how serotonin and dopamine, two neurotransmitters that shape almost everything about how we evaluate and pursue outcomes, have dissociable effects on how we assign value to uncertain or potentially harmful choices. The finding that matters here is not the clinical application, it is the underlying architecture it reveals. Serotonin, in this framework, appears to modulate how we weight harm in decision-making, not just physical harm, evaluative harm, the possibility of having done the wrong thing, of being responsible for a bad outcome. Dopamine, by contrast, is more tightly linked to anticipated reward and the motivation to pursue it. What this suggests, and it is an interpretation, not a direct proof, is that the internal conflict many people feel around financial decisions is not simply a tug-of-war between wanting money and being lazy. It may be a genuine neurochemical tension between the pull toward a future reward and the brake applied by anticipated evaluative harm. The fear of being the person who made the wrong call. Now, an important caveat. That research was not conducted on people opening brokerage accounts. It used moral dilemmas, controlled scenarios about harm to others, Applying it to financial behavior is an inference, not a direct finding. The research does not prove that your serotonin system is why you haven't opened your Roth IRA. What it does is offer a mechanistic model that fits the pattern of behavior better than the literacy explanation does.
And the pattern is consistent. People who report high financial anxiety often report it regardless of their financial knowledge. Knowing more does not reliably reduce the anticipatory discomfort. That is a signal worth taking seriously. There is also a useful engineering perspective here. The brain is not broken when it avoids uncertain commitments.
It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Flagging potential regret before you commit, trying to protect you from a bad outcome. The system is working correctly. The environment has simply changed faster than the system has. Your brain's risk avoidance circuitry was calibrated in environments where a wrong decision could mean something genuinely catastrophic. Opening an index fund is not that, but the evaluative machinery does not always know the difference. So what does this actually mean for you? First, if you have been telling yourself you just need to learn more before you're ready to invest, it is worth asking honestly whether more knowledge is actually what's missing. Because the research suggests that for many people, the hesitation is not located in the understanding. It is located in the anticipation. You might already know enough. The discomfort might not be a signal to wait. It might just be the feeling the brain generates when any uncertain outcome is on the table. Second, the relief you feel when you close the tab is real. It is neurologically genuine. It is not laziness producing it, but it is also temporary, and it comes at a cost that compounds, quietly, invisibly, month after month in a checking account that is slowly losing real value to inflation. Think about this from 20 years out. The specific anxiety you feel right now. Which fund, which platform, what if the market drops in the first year? Almost certainly won't matter. What will matter is whether the decision got made. The future version of you will not remember the discomfort of opening the account. They will live with the compounding or the absence of it. That reframe doesn't dissolve the feeling, but it might help you relate to it differently, as a signal to notice, not a command to obey. Here is the tension that does not fully resolve. If the obstacle is anticipatory discomfort rather than ignorance, then more information and simpler interfaces will only partially help, which is probably true, but it is not a satisfying answer. It does not give you a clean fix. It mostly tells you that the thing you thought was the problem probably isn't the whole problem. And there is a real disagreement in the field about how much individual neurochemistry shapes financial behavior versus how much is structural, income, access, trust in financial institutions built over generations. Both are probably true. They are not mutually exclusive. What seems clear is this: the gap between having cash and doing something with it is not primarily a literacy gap. The brain is generating a specific signal about uncertain futures. Understanding that signal, where it comes from, what it is actually protecting you from, might be more useful than any tutorial ever was, or it might not be enough either. That part remains genuinely open. The research behind this video draws from Current Biology, CB. Every claim traces to a published source. Full citations are in the description below. If the way this channel thinks about neuroscience resonates with you, subscribing helps this work reach people who'd appreciate it. New videos on the science of mind every week.